Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. I was planning on doing a modern release review today of Bug Fables, but I want to give a little bit more time to get my thoughts together, do some of the post-game content. I just finished the main story with my kids. Phenomenal experience, and I want to give like a full experience on that, maybe get some footage and put that all together, but I want to do a review on that a little bit later. But I wanted to say that there is a modern review in the works. I haven't done one in a couple weeks, but I will have that in probably a few days. Today I want to talk about the Game Awards and some of the controversy going on with and my thoughts on what's happening with the Game Awards and the nominations for Game of the Year. So if you're not aware, the Game Awards is a yearly showcase talking about the best games throughout the year from various developers, from various categories as well. This is talking about just games in general, all the way down to like indie games, all the way down to esports. There are categories for a lot of things here. And the main category, of course, is the best game of the year. Last year it was Baldur's Gate 3. The year before that was Elden Ring. We've gotten some really phenomenal games year to year. And this year, the controversy is that a DLC is now nominated for Game of the Year with Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, I can understand a lot of people's trepidation with this. Why include DLC now in the Game of the Year conversation? Especially since this is like the first time, and Elden Ring won 2 years ago. Why are we doing it now? So I just wanted to give my thoughts on this. So first and foremost, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree does feel like its own experience. Despite being an addendum to Elden Ring in a lot of ways, it's still going to have the same system, same combat, it's the same visual art style and everything. It's not technically a brand new game, but it very much feels like one in a lot of ways. It does have some new mechanics. It has plenty of new weapons. It has its own like leveling system essentially, so that you can't just walk in there and mow down every single boss with your level 1 billion character. The way that they designed it is very much in line with how From Software has done games in the past and DLCs in the past. They don't want you to have an easy breezy experience. They don't want you to walk in and just traipse through everything. They want you to experience this world in the way that they want you to experience it. They want to give you the options to go out and be open just like they did with the original game, but they want to give you a kind of like the experience that you're looking for with a From Software game. They do not want it to be just some phoned in thing. So they put a ton of work into this expansion as well. This is like 40 hours long, which is about, I think I put it about 90 hours. I think it was right around that mark for beating every single boss in the base game. So this is pretty much half of what Elden Ring is. We're getting 1.5 times the content with this, and it's like a $40 DLC. I think that's well worth the time. 40 hours for $40 seems like a really good investment, especially for something as fantastic as Elden Ring. And from what I understand, I have not finished it myself. It is one of the best expansions of all time, so I can see why they're nominating it at least. Now, my trepidation with this as well is that Elden Ring won 2 years ago. That's why I don't think that this will end up winning Game of the Year, but a lot of people are speculating it, since it's in the conversation at all, that's what's going to make it like end up winning, that they're essentially saying that it's going to win because we're finally including a DLC for the first time. But I disagree. I think in the past we've seen fairly a lot of consistency from the Game Awards in not giving Game of the Year to sequels to phenomenal games. God of War won Game of the Year over Red Dead Redemption 2, which Red Dead 1 won Game of the Year way back in the day from so many different outlets. Red Dead 2 didn't win because God of War was so phenomenal, but God of War Ragnarok, despite how phenomenal it was and how well beloved it was and how well it did commercially and critically, it didn't end up winning Game of the Year when it launched because we already got God of War getting Game of the Year a few years back, and Elden Ring was arguably the superior experience because it's something new and something fresh. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think the Game Awards do value ingenuity and new things in the space. You know, I guess Baldur's Gate 3 ended up winning Game of the Year, and it's technically a sequel, but its last entry was a million years ago, and it was not even close to the same kind of game. This is a brand new thing on the PlayStation 5 versus way back. I don't even know what console this came out on. I guess it's PC way back in the day. But this game the older games feel much older. So I think that it's not just a matter of being a sequel, it's how innovative the sequel is. And despite Red Dead 2 being quite a good sequel in terms of what it offers you and how much visual improvement there is, it does feel a lot like Red Dead Redemption 1 in a lot of ways. So I can see where they're coming from here. I like that they are nominating it. I actually do. I think it's actually not a bad thing to have something like Shadow the Erdtree because it's so detailed. It packs more of a punch than so many of the games that came out this year. Again, like a 40-hour experience with something as phenomenal as Elden Ring as the base game is going to obviously be phenomenal and is going to give like a lot of attention to this expansion. I think that's a good thing, but I don't think it will win, and I don't think it should win Game of the Year. I think the clear runners right now are Astrobot and Balatro. I think that Balatro has done a ton for like the indie scene, especially. They just captured, the developers captured lightning in a bottle. They captured something so phenomenal. People are just hooked on this game. It's gotten tons of crossover support since then. It's gotten tons of free updates. It's a relatively cheap game. There's like a very low barrier of entry and people can just jump in and have a ton of fun. People sink hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game because it's so addicting. It has that roguelike those roguelike elements, but it's just like this perfect combination of everything that you would expect out of like an indie roguelike game. And I think that they really did capture lightning in a bottle here, and so many people are talking about it. I've heard so much good press for Balatro. I would not be surprised if it ended up winning Game of the Year, despite being an indie roguelike poker game. Like it's just that good. So people have said that many good things about it. But I also could see Astrobot winning, not just because it's like so critically lauded, but because people really seem to be enjoying this game in a way that people haven't been enjoying video games I've seen. My buddy Shin0555 talked about this, how games don't feel like fun is the emphasis anymore, and I have to agree. It seems like a lot of times games from like a corporate standpoint are not pushed out as fun projects. They're pushed out as ways to monetize and get as much money out of you as possible. And so I can totally see that perspective here. And Team Asobi really put together something special with Astrobot. We have seen this formula before, like Astro's Playroom on the PlayStation 5 is like a demo showcase of the DualSense. The Astrobot's, I think it's Rescue Mission for the PSVR, the first game in the franchise, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe there's one before that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Showcase some other piece of tech. It was showcasing the PlayStation VR. So we've seen Astrobot before, but this feels like a full realization of everything that they've done in the past into this really beautiful, glorious experience. And despite being like a whole like brand showcase for Sony, talking about all their properties and everything, like a big old commercial for it, it feels so genuine. They've put together something that's really beautiful. That's something that flows together from start to finish, like seamlessly with the gameplay elements. All the cameos are really fantastic. It'll like pique your nostalgia, and the way they implement them is so good. It's just a really tight platformer, a 3D platformer that has just been sparking so much love for gaming. And I think that's why it should be at least very high in the contention for Game of the Year, because it's doing something a lot of games aren't doing right now. It's helping people have fun with video gaming again, remembering what fun video games are. And it's a good signal for the future of Sony specifically, since they have been kind of floundering lately, not putting out great experiences or putting out live service nonsense slop that no one wants. And like, why are we failing? We don't have any IPs to draw from. Well, you do, and you need to utilize them. And we don't care about this live service nonsense. We care about the first party stuff. Give us first party single player games. That's what people want. And it seems like it's working, because they are doubling down on that. They're talking about emphasizing those going forward. And if they're going to do live service stuff, it'll likely be adjacent to stuff like Horizon Zero Dawn or The Last of Us, properties that they know have some staying power, not just Concord, which was just, what were they even doing with that? Why did they think it was going to succeed? But I think those two are the big front runners here. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has an outside shot. From what I understand, I've not played the game myself. It is not like the most beloved entry in the Final Fantasy franchise by any means. It feels very bloated. Apparently, this is all from what I've heard about the game. I have not played it myself, but I've heard it's very bloated. It feels like they've sunk like an extra 10 to 20 hours in here, when if they cut it out, it would be a better game overall. Some people didn't like the retelling, like they're changing aspects of the story, which we knew was going to happen. But a lot of people are not liking the direction they're going with it. So I think, despite being this absolutely gorgeous game, and it's FF7, everyone loves FF7. Seeing that on your PlayStation 5 in glorious 4K is a really cool thing. I don't think it deserves to be Game of the Year because of how many complaints I've seen from it, but I do think it has an outside chance because the Game Awards is a little bit I don't know what the word is here, a little bit corporate-y, kind of. It kind of feels like the Grammy Awards or stuff. They'll give it to the flashiest things sometimes. But I would say that with Elden Ring in 2022, I felt like a lot of people thought that God of War Ragnarok would win, and they gave it to Elden Ring anyway. I think that was a good indication that the Game Awards isn't just this corporate entity. I think that they are trying genuinely to find the best game. If Balatro wins this year, I think that will show that they are clearly looking for like the best title in terms of critical reception and in terms of how it was received by the community. So I think those are the two clear runaways at this point. Balatro is going to sweep in pretty much any category that it's in otherwise. I think any other category it's nominated for, it's absolutely going to win best like debut indie game. Despite how good Animal Well was, I think that Balatro is just taking the world by storm in such a major way. So I think that will be the case. I think it's between Astrobot and Balatro, but I could be surprised. There are other great games that have been nominated that deserve to be up there, but I think those two are the big ones here. I thought about doing a video talking about my own votes and how I would vote for everything. I think I might do that later. Let me know in the comment section down below if you would like that. But I just wanted to kind of talk about the controversy here. I do think that going forward, if we have something as expansive and as like meaty as something like Shadow of the Erdtree was, I do think it deserves to be in contention for Game of the Year because it's something like that they put so much time into and it was received so well. Like, this is, again, one of the best DLCs of all time in terms of its critical reception. I think that should be like lauded. I think we should praise that and really talk about it. I understand the need for like maybe we just have a category for DLC then, but there's not always like grand DLCs like this. So if you have one like this, it's just going to be a runaway winner and only win that category. I like that it can be nominated for multiple things, and who knows if it ends up winning Game of the Year like 2 years after Elden Ring does. I guess it deserved it, and I actually wouldn't be super mad. I think it'd be better to have something different win because Elden Ring won, but also a lot of people are saying that this is the best experience of the year, and so why not celebrate that? So let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Let me know if you want to see all of my picks for Game of the Year. I can go through and do all my votes, cast them online and everything. I would love to do that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.